Ever draft a commander deck? We have, and it is sweet. Today, we go over our take on Commander Cube. So be there, or be Cube. Oh god. Hello everybody, welcome back to Commanding Magic Season 2. It's Episode 4. It's Travis and Brandon here today. Brandon, how's it going?
Doing all right. Been up since yesterday, 7 o'clock, because I went to the pre-release for last night.
Pre-release. Hey, before we get started here, tell us a little bit about that. How was that?
I had fun. I built what I felt like was a good deck, but I got to buy my game one, so I didn't actually get a chance to play. Which was kind of lame.
All right.
I wanted to test out what I felt like was a good deck, and then the actual game I played, game one, I got overran by big creatures, which my removal was great. It's just he had too many creatures.
Too many big creatures.
Too many big dudes.
The tempo was real.
And then game two, I got mana flooded.
Oh, okay. Well,
and by then it was almost 3 a.m, so we left.
You can't win them all. Did you get any sweet pulls?
Between myself and Heather, we pulled 3 bicycle lands.
Hell yeah.
I got the Red God from our packs while we were leaving.
Hers are red.
And I got the most expensive card in the set, Gideon. Whatever the Gideon's extra name is. That one. Gideon.
Yeah.
Gideon.
Yeah, that one. That's pretty awesome. It's awesome that you pulled those cycling lands. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that's pretty neat. I'm not complaining about them. I'm sure they will easily find a home. One of them's foil, but it's got the pre-release stamp on it. But
I mean, that's still awesome, man. Which one is it?
It's the blue-white one.
There you go. That you play blue fairly often.
And white.
Toss that into Brago,
Toss it into Shuyun.
Oh right? Yeah, there you go. So, pre-releases aside, last week we hinted, well, we didn't really hint at it, we just straight up said next week we're talking about Commander Cube. I wish Colin were here to talk about this with us, but apparently his internet is just not working.
Yep, it says his internet is just gone today.
Yep. So, Commander Cube is a variant of the Commander format that we have been playing for the past few months. We've played it, 3 times now?
Yes, 3 times.
And it's been a lot of fun. It's a good opportunity. I bring the cube with me whenever I go up to visit, whenever I go up north, and we all get together and we play. We play with some friends that don't do the show with us. That just we all sit down. We've been going to Legendary Games in Lafayette to play that lately, and it's been really awesome because playing with 6 sweaty people in Brandon's small apartment gets a little claustrophobic.
I mean, to be fair, we've not played with 6 people yet. It's always been 4 or 5.
I'm not sure that our cube could support 6 people. I mean, maybe if we'll get
into it. I think it's big enough.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, we will.
But. So I guess in order to move forward explaining this, we first must ask ourselves, what is draft? And Brandon, tell us a little about a bit. What's
a draft?
A little about a bit.
So I've been in the habit of having to explain a lot of formats lately.
Okay.
To my fiance who does not play Magic, and she's making the effort to get into it, which I appreciate.
Very good.
But so I've had to explain a lot of formats. So have been keeping up with all this. But draft's an easy one. So you get a pack, you pick a card out of it, you pass that card or pass the deck to not the deck, the pack, right? The pack that you got. You pass that to, what is it, the left?
It's left or right.
Left or right, whichever.
Yeah.
And then you pass packs around. Everybody who's in the draft has a pack, and then you pick cards from the packs until there's no cards left. And then you get another pack, and then you do the same.
And you pass
and
it
you
to
do
the right.
that. Yep. You pass whatever the opposite way was you did from the first time.
Yeah. So how many packs are in a normal draft?
3.
So normally your deck would probably be around 50 cards? That's what draft is?
I think so.
Yeah.
45, 50 maybe, I'm not sure, on standard draft.
So
But
the allure of that is that you are getting to. I mean, sometimes they do all from the same set. Sometimes they do like one pack from each set in a block,
hmm
and that just kind of it's a version of sealed, I guess, where it's like you only using cards that are in the sets that are in those packs, so you don't have like there's a huge like random element to it, you know.
yeah, and that's definitely one of the biggest allures to it. Is also the fact that you're opening packs. Opening packs is fun.
Yeah, sure.
There's no doubt about that. And it's
Except
also the thrill of the hunt,
yeah.
except when you pull the worst expedition, right?
Or when you open a pack and there's a card that's really, really good or really rare, and you have to decide about do I want the rare or do I want the card that's actually good. So,
Hashtag
and
Glyphgate.
there's been a huge controversy over that. So
Whether you
that's
get
a
the
great
card that's worth money or the card that will win you a tournament.
yeah. So I think the draft is probably a good way to kind of like break up like the monotony of the game, and I think that this our format here has been a great way to do this for us, and it'll become apparent why as we move forward. So so Cube is another format.
Yep.
It's a draft variant where instead of cracking packs, your pool of cards that can be seen in your draft it's a controlled element where instead of having packs, you choose all the cards that are in your cube, and then you take the cards from your cube, randomly divide them out into normally in normal cube it would probably be 3 packs, I think.
Yeah.
And then you just proceed to draft as you normally would and play that way. But usually in cube, the power level is much, 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 much higher because since you can choose the pool of cards, some people have powered cubes where they have like power 9 in it. So you know what I mean? And like we'll draft, like there'll be draft archetypes like Storm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like very high power level, and like generally probably high skill level, I'd say, to really really play in like a very well built cube. So what we decided to do, and I mean we're not the first ones to do this. Like disclaimer, like we're talking about this, like this is the spin that we have put on it, but this is not like an official like thing. This is a thing that people have done before us and will continue to do after us. But
Yeah, we didn't necessarily make it up.
no, but I think that the way that we do this is slightly different than some other people. So, so to start off with, we had to decide, I guess, kind of like how many, because originally we wanted to do 100 card commander in this cube. So it's like we're going to draft and draft and draft and draft until we have enough cards to make a 100 card cube. So it's like, okay, we're going to need
that we have enough dead cards, or that we have enough cards to go around to make sure that we can have a 100 card deck.
Yeah, so it's like I eventually was like, yeah, I guess I'll put that in. I guess I'll put that in. I guess I'll put that in because it's like I was running out of like ideas for cards.
Yeah.
So the way that we do it though, and the way that it's a little bit different from some other people in my research at least, is that before we even start drafting the bulk of the cube, we draft a commander pack. We have a completely separate, like, even like a separate cube almost, like
pretty much. We have actually 3 of those in this.
Yeah.
Part later.
And we draft a commander pack, which is only multicolored legendary creatures. Now, this is a little bit different from how it was at the cube's inception, because originally the commander pack included monocolored commanders, but it became very apparent moving forward that the chances for you to pick a monocolored commander and draft a monocolored deck are very, very, very slim. And it's not really because of lack of availability of the cards, I think, but I think the way that it worked out, where if you were to pick a card that was in the color of your commander every pick as often as you could, even if you did end up with enough cards to make that 100 card deck, it would turn out like where you were playing every card you had, so you were even playing cards that like weren't in the archetype that you had. So it's like it's like, what archetype are you playing? It's like, no, I'm just playing mono green, whatever I could get. And
Yeah.
so it became apparent that we couldn't do that. So what we ended up doing was we moved all of the monocolored legendaries into the main cube. And
Mm-hmm.
we have a rule that says if you want to play a monocolored commander, you can. Like if you draft one
Yeah.
in the main cube, you can play it if you like. But we just have it
But
there,
that's
so
it,
like the option is there. We're not excluding it entirely.
So
But
the multicolored commanders include the commanders from like Fate Reforged that were like Shu Yun, for example, which is a blue, but he's got mana symbols that make him multicolored.
yeah, so obviously if you draft one of those, you're playing 3 colors.
Yep.
And there are 2 and 3 color. There's only 2 and 3 color. No,
Yep, 'cause
no 4
color and
colors.
There's no
And no 5
color.
colors either, yeah. So, I mean, I guess that would be something that people, like some people might find an issue with, but it's just kind of what's worked out for us. But
And
what we
they've
did
been-
find out,
They've been 6 card commander packs, right?
yeah, 5 or 6. So it kind of goes back and forth depending, because like
Yeah.
we don't with the I don't know. I think that at this point the commander like pool of commanders is up to like maybe like 70 or so. But what we wanted to really avoid is we wanted to make the replay value very high.
Yeah.
So even though there's a lot of commanders to choose from, we don't want all those commanders to be seen every time.
Yeah. Like I think I've picked a different commander every time.
Oh, I make a point of it, just
Yeah.
for the fun of doing it. And so the other thing is that if you, in your commander pack or in your commander draft, like as you're drafting the pack, you choose one, obviously, to be your main commander, but the rest of the cards, if those are in the colors of your commander, you're more than welcome to play those in the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of another way to get a hold of like some more powerful cards to use in the deck. And
Like I think last time, I know I ended up changing my choice on the commander when we played, which we'll get into here in a bit later. I had originally set my sights on black-red, but then I pulled a lot of blue-red and white-red and America colors.
yeah.
I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to play. Half of my commanders here I can play, so you know what? I'll play, that color.
And it's funny because I feel like that's like a little bit of the trap of it, because if you find the one commander that you want to play, so in your case it was black red, but then you pull so many other things, you're like, I could just play all these. And I think that goes a little bit into like a little bit of the idea of just because you like have a lot of things in one color in your commander pack, like don't let that pigeonhole you into playing a certain archetype, you know?
I mean, if we were going to go over pack one, pick one this week, like we were going to, like I had made that choice that, I was probably going to play America colors. And then I got my pack one, pick one, and I was like, nope, I am playing black red.
Yeah, so look out for that. That's going to be another, I think, mini series that we're going to start doing called Pack One Pick One. And I mean that even that phrase Pack One Pick One is not unique to us.
Yeah.
But we are going to be talking about it strictly
For
in
commander
the
cube.
commander cube. So we'll go over the commander picked and what else was in your commander pack, what was in your first pack, like exactly, and why you picked the first card that you did. So anyway, so another thing that's worth mentioning about the commander pack is that it was just this most recent time that we did it, and it was an idea that we kind of had after the most recent commander set came out, about because we were kind of on the fence about partner. But then we got to thinking, and we said, why not just include the partner commanders in the commander pack? So you don't, so like, let's say, the only, I don't know, the only like 3-color commander that I got was like, I don't know, like, Sirach or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's what? Look at this! I also got like one of the green blue and one of the red blue partner commanders. So I put those together, and instead of using Sirach, I have these two that I'm using together, and then that also opens up the possibility for people to play 4-color if they wish, even though there's no solid like just one creature that is 4 colors in there.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the whole partner commander thing is an interesting thing to do. I mean,
It's just fun to try out. You know?
Having two commanders is unique,
Yeah.
and having access to two creatures at a whim is interesting.
Yeah, and I think that we have determined that that is where the partner mechanic really shines,
Yeah.
especially because of just because you're not picking the exact two that you might want. It's like if they happen, if two happen to come up, you can pair them up, and all of a sudden you might have a pairing that you never thought about using before,
Yep.
and it's just because of the random element of the commander pack, like of
Should
this.
we talk about what happened with the gods?
I think that we'll talk about that when we get into archetypes
Okay.
of this. But yeah, that's definitely something. Gods are a possible problem in Commander Cube, but we'll get into that later.
Let's just say they're not included as commanders.
Oh yes. Oh, okay. So yeah, as far as gods go, as commanders, yeah, the gods are there's both the single and double color gods in the cube, but as a rule, you cannot use them as a commander.
Yep.
That's just
in
a rule that we
cube,
put into place.
it is too hard to draft around removal for that.
Yeah.
So-
The indestructible element is something that's really hard to get around, and we even
Mm-hmm.
put a bunch of cards like a lot of the enchantment removal that's in our commander cube like is exile removal, like return to dust and deicide and
Did you put in? Oh, I don't remember what it is. I'll think of it
and
later.
fade into antiquity, stuff like that. That can specifically get rid of gods, and just because of the size of the cube, you're not guaranteed to get that stuff. So it's like if someone were to use a god, and as we'll get into later, we kind of ran into a little bit of this where people were just playing God's main deck, and it was really, really, it made the board states really awkward.
Yep.
But anyway, going on. So I guess talking about the main, because the second step of drafting our commander cube would be to draft the bulk of the cube, right?
Right.
But I think that we should just really quick go over the land pack,
Yeah.
which comes after the bulk, because after that you have an idea of like what colors you're playing. You have all your pool already, and you know like what the division of colors is across.
In this way, you're drafting a land pack separately, so you're not trying to prioritize getting those duels.
Yeah,
while
we
you're
didn't want
drafting.
that. We did not want that to be a thing. And just like in when we play Commander, one of the things that we really want to like emphasize with everybody that we play with is we want it to just be a good time. So it's like we'll do things like, I don't know, if you're missing a couple land drops, like, oh, scry for a land.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Like-
Who cares? Like, just
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. So after everyone has all of their cards except for their lands, we have a non-basic land pack, and like usually it's been like 15 cards, I think, maybe, depending on the size of the decks, which we'll get into later, which has also changed over time.
Funny thing happened though. Last time we played was that we revealed what we were playing, and Travis and I were playing two of the same color.
Yeah.
So we knew because of something were doing beforehand.
Yeah.
So we knew we were fighting over duels. So
Yeah, so and that's something that that's also worth noting as well. After the main pack is after the main bulk of the cube is drafted, we ought to be drafting the land pack and then revealing.
yeah, but
So-
we had revealed because we were doing our
Yeah.
first trying pack one, pick one.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
Yeah.
moving forward we'll draft lands then do pack one pick one. But yeah, so constructing the land pack, that land pack is pretty big. It's over, I think
Yeah.
it's over 100 cards.
are you gonna put the cycle lands in there?
Assuming that we get all of them
I mean,
at some point.
they're only $5 right now a piece.
No, I mean like as soon as we get the whole cycle.
Okay.
All the colors, because that's
Okay.
one of the main things that I wanted to make sure that I did in the land pack.
The cycle lands.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to make sure that we did was that there was an equal distribution of colors.
Yeah,
So it's
makes
like,
sense.
for instance, there's one of every fetch. There's
Yeah.
one of every scry land.
There's
There's
one of every shock.
yeah, there's one of every shock land. There's one of every buddy land. I didn't want it to be like, for instance, like I could have easily just been like, this is going to be a bunch of stuff that makes colorless and all of the green white duels, and that's it. But
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, I don't think like I even have to really say it, like, you know, just making sure that there's like a distribution of colors, so it's like everybody can be getting the colors that they want, and then if there's competition, that there's still enough for like each person to get like a little bit of something, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like there we have like all those like types of lands. Like if there's a whole cycle of it, I put it in there. I don't like to put stuff in there if we only have half of a cycle, because it throws
Makes
off
sense.
the balance a little bit. So, but other than that, we have stuff
Okay.
like Command Tower, Reliquary Tower, Ancient Tomb, Temple of the False God, like all of
Seagate
the
wreckage.
yeah, and stuff like that, which is good, which is cool non-basics for Commander. You know what I mean? And so we have like I'm pretty sure it's been a 15 card pack every time we've done it. I think.
Yeah.
And I think
Because we want to make sure that even though we're, you know, still playing this for fun, we want to make sure everybody has their fixing.
Yeah, we're not interested in people getting mana screwed playing a 3-color deck just because they didn't like prioritize duels in their packs.
Yeah.
That's not something that we care about. We want that to be a non-issue. Like there should be no reason why you should spend like an hour and a half drafting because of just the nature of how long it takes because of the greater deck size to just get mana screwed and not be able to have fun.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because this is a time investment, a fairly large one. So,
Yeah. So
which we'll get into later.
no, let's just go over that right now. Let's just real quick go into. It's a commitment. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that because
Take up your
usually,
whole afternoon.
usually when we do this, we all get together and we have breakfast, and then we cube, and then we have a late lunch.
A 5 o'clock lunch.
So yeah, it might even be a
dinner.
lunch dinner type thing. It's been pretty fun though. It's been like almost like a tradition. You know, we eat breakfast at the same place, and then we go eat lunch dinner at the same place, and
Yeah.
it's been a fun time.
I mean, because the card shop's right between both of those, so.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it takes a good like 2 hours just to get drafted and get your deck built and everything like that, and just be ready to play. And then depending on how the game goes and the way that people choose to play, you know, between like aggro
Because everybody's
and
playing
control.
with cards that, you know, they've probably never played before.
Yeah, so we've even actually talked about possibly doing a turn clock. Like you have like 90 seconds or like 60 seconds to take your turn,
Yeah.
because at a certain point we need to be going through the turns, you know.
Yeah.
And if you have to like read every card in your hand every turn, it turns into like a 3-4 minute turn, which inherently doesn't really sound like a bad thing if
You
you're
add all those
trying to
up,
make
though.
big plays. But if you
Yeah.
have even 2-minute turns, if you have even if you have let's say out of 4 people, 2 of those people take a 2-minute turn every other turn for 20 turns, like all of a sudden you have like
Yeah.
I don't know, like a half hour like just taken up with people doing nothing. And when I say nothing, I just mean like looking at their hand trying to make a decision, you know.
Yep.
So it takes a long time. It's there's an investment, a time investment into this. So if
But
you're gonna do
it's
this,
worth it.
be prepared. But do it with friends that like a bunch of friends that you know well, and so you can just be cracking jokes in between all that
Yeah.
stuff. Moving forward, I think that the time investment
about archetypes?
may become a little bit less,
Yeah.
just because
Because,
we've been messing around with how many packs we need to be drafting.
yes.
So
We started off with 6,
Yep.
didn't we?
yep, I think we did 6 the first 2 times that we did it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
so-
then this last time we also took out a card for, what was that? The one that added a pack?
Yeah, the card from Conspiracy that added an additional booster pack to the draft. Yeah, that one was up, and every time it came up, we were just like, "Oh God!"
It was fun, though.
Yeah, it was
But-
fine. It was fine.
But then we took it out.
Yeah, took that card out. But the last time we did it, we did 5 packs, and then we did 80 card commander decks.
Yes.
And that
Still
I
came to
think,
the conclusion that we still didn't see half of our decks.
and that was the big thing, because I think that part of the fun of Cube in general is that since your deck size is relatively small, the likelihood of you seeing most of the cards that you draft, which is the idea, I think,
Yeah.
that becomes the really fun part about it once you actually start playing. So you can draw the card and be like, yeah, I knew that I drafted this for a good reason, you know, like awesome that I pulled this card. So I think we've talked about even moving forward, like even dropping it down to like 60 cards
60.
or something, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, just working with it from there and then maybe going down to 4-packs. So it's like it cuts down deck building time, it cuts down drafting time, and then it also makes it so once you actually start playing, you're more likely to see all the really awesome cards that you drafted for your deck.
And I mean, it should make turns go by faster. Everything, I mean, it'll be like we just got done talking about, it'll be less of a time sink.
Yeah. And it's not, we're not saying that we want to be able to get through this as fast as possible. It's just sometimes it would be nice for the whole experience not to take like 5 hours.
Also, there's some times where you drafted removal, but
and it's like, oh, where is it? Because when you're building a normal commander deck, you have your removal set up. You're like, oh, I have my whatever, like my Utter End, my Vindicate, my Hero's Downfall,
Chaos Warp.
Yeah, like it's all in there. But sometimes in Commander Cube, you might only draft like maybe like 2 pieces of removal, 3 pieces of removal, and that's assuming that nobody else is drafting the same colors that removal is in who already picked it. So that goes over that. So let's talk about archetypes. Yeah, you suggested we go over archetypes. Yeah, let's go over that. So what did we want?
Decide archetypes?
So at the inception of this Commander Cube, the original idea was that we were going to do tribal, and it became apparent very quickly that would just not work.
It would pigeonhole you into playing one thing and one thing only.
Yeah, so it's like if you're playing green, you're playing elves. And then if you want to branch out into any other color, chances are you'd be playing green-black because green-black elves. And what that also does is that makes it really difficult for commander selection as well because you are just having all the commander like legendary creatures that go with those archetypes. It was a really fun idea at the start. And I was like, this is going to be great. And when I started like getting the card list together and getting commanders together, I was like, okay, this is terrible. We need to rethink this whole thing.
Plus, I mean, having it that way, you end up seeing all those archetypes every time. You don't see any creative deck building with that going on. Yeah,
you're gonna see the Goblin deck and the Elf deck and the Merfolk deck and the Soldier deck or whatever. So that was kind of like phase 1. That we never even played the cube as it stood like that. We never even had the cube together.
No, we just had a list.
Yeah. So from moving from there,
how did we choose our commanders?
We tried to make it so we would be playing commanders that you didn't see all the time. And that I think might have been a good idea. It might have been a bad idea. But I think that because a lot of those commanders are just not that powerful.
Yeah.
And even if you build a deck, like, you still have this commander. It's like, well, like, I don't know. For instance, there's stuff like Feldegriff and stuff in there.
Which has been taken out since.
Yeah, and there was just some other commanders that just weren't that great. And it didn't really feel that good to draft them. And then to just see them sitting in your command zone when usually your commander can be like a very, like, either just an integral part to your deck or just like a bomb play. You know, it was like sometimes like we wouldn't even see someone wouldn't even play their commander just because it wasn't worth it. So
we ended up there for the colors.
So we were like, screw it. All the cons are going in. Like all the like cons are going in. Like some stuff from like Return to Ravnica. Like just we're like, all right, let's ramp up the power here a little bit. So it's like now it's really awesome to go through because we're seeing a lot of really powerful things.
Yep.
Let me real quick just grab the cube, and I'll go over some of the commanders that we have in here.
But I remember when we originally sat down, because we planned out like a couple hour a night, like for one night specifically, for all 3 of us to sit down and go through every single legendary creature.
And so like
we decided between what we wanted to have, what we might have, and what we definitely should not be playing.
So I'm just gonna go through it like I just pulled out a random stack. So like Tassiger, Rurikthar, Minute and Den Wildborn, which is something that no one's really played yet, but I think has
But
potential.
that landfall deck, though.
Yeah, Carador, Sylvala, some of the partner commanders,
Vile
Renzo, Rashmi, Adriana, Aurelia, Loro,
Adriana.
Queen Marchesa, which has been really, because we've seen that 2 out of the 3 times.
Real quick.
Playing with Monarch makes commander games really weird, because
It does.
it all of a sudden, if you're Monarch, you have a huge target on your head, but it also makes it kind of weird because you're almost wanting to be the Monarch more than you're wanting to win the game.
The funny thing is, though, if anybody drafts a single card that gives Monarch, suddenly the rest of that game's going to have Monarch. Nothing's going to stop it.
Yeah. But so it's been a little weird, but she's in there. Like Brago, Cheyenne, Maelstrom Wanderer, Derevi, Leovold, Emissary, Melik, Gadok Teague is in there for the people if you want to try to make the green white weenie deck. Skullbriar, and there's way more than that, but
yeah.
So I think that this most recent time that we did the Commander Cube, it was a lot more fun drafting commanders.
Yeah.
Because every card seemed like there was like a certain amount of weight to it, that it's like, if I don't pick this, it might not come back. Especially because the way that we were playing, you only wheel once.
Yep.
Because the pack is so small. So it's like every single pick that you make is very important.
Yep. That was how I was talking about earlier, how last time we played, I think 3 of the commanders that I picked could all be put in one deck. So that's 3 cards that I knew right there in the deck, no problem.
Yeah.
And rather than the one that I did end up picking, that, was just a pick.
Yeah. So there's, as far as like archetypes go, you can play aggro, you can play control. You can't really play tribal because there's not a lot of lords in there. Just because if you play the lords, then you have to play a bunch of other creatures that can get powered up by them, and it's like all of a sudden you're making your green, your blue, your red, your white, your black. All of a sudden,
forcing yourself into
good
tribal.
Portion of them is being taken up by these tribal cards. So we avoided that. We don't really have like combo, like, because that's not a way that we like to play in normal Commander anyway. So, but like there's like a lot of like, as far as like blue goes, there's like a lot of the really good counter spells and stuff like that. A lot of the really good control elements. In green, you have a lot of the really awesome green creatures. Red has like a fair like some good burn stuff and like dragons and stuff like that. White has soldiers, just because like a lot of the creatures are soldiers anyway. I don't know, just like a lot of your really good like white aggro cards, but you also have stuff like Magus of the Moat and like Wall of Reverence for like the control bits of it. Things like that.
Rigo Caracal or Caracal or whatever it's called from MK, didn't it?
Wait, what?
It's the Cat Lord? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look and see what's in the cube. Like, it's not that card's not bad on its own anyway, though.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
But yeah, but there is also, I tried to integrate artifacts to be an archetype in the cube, and it just hasn't worked thus far.
Like last time we were drafting, I made Travis think I was drafting artifacts just because I needed mana fixing.
I wanted you to be drafting artifacts. Well, because I mean, there's a bunch of artifacts in there, a lot of like powerful artifacts, and then there's artifact support in blue. There's artifact support in red. There's even a little bit of it like in black, like that we saw in Kaladesh, and it just hasn't come up so far. And I don't want to remove it from the cube just yet. If anything, I might.
But you don't want to force draft it, though.
Yeah, I might want to try to like add some more stuff to it. But if it doesn't come up in the next like couple times, I might just take it out, because like what ends up happening, I think, is that a lot of people will, I've noticed this myself, is that I'll end up having like a tiny stack of artifact support cards, but just not nearly enough to have the archetype work. And it's a bummer, because I love that archetype. I love it to death, but it just hasn't worked out so far. Like, maybe it's just because we haven't got the formula right yet. Who knows? Another
funny thing that we've noticed is that a couple packs into it, dead colors become very clear.
Oh yeah, and then that adds a fun little like political element to it.
Yeah,
To be like,
because we're trying to
who's
find out like
who's playing who's not playing this color, like who's playing this color. And it was really
Yep.
funny because I wish Colin were here to talk about this, because I'm pretty sure it was him that did it, where he was like, we were like, who's
no,
playing
that was Tim.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
And what colors was it? I can't remember.
He was playing something, but he switched to green white.
Yeah, but he didn't tell anybody.
No,
And then
green white was open.
it was so open, and like he was just getting pick after pick after pick after pick, and then even he would take part in the conversation of like, yeah, who's playing green white? There's so much green white stuff. Like, how's nobody playing this? And then at the end, he's like, surprise,
Surprise Dramoka.
So good on Tim for that. That was pretty awesome to see. And that's like part of the thing that I love about, like, I mean, maybe this happens in normal cube, but Commander Cube, just that sort of like the little things that you might say that might be a little bit of a tell.
Yeah.
Another fun part about this is just kind of a side note. Another fun part about Commander Cube is that I think that everyone at the table, every pack that they open and every pack that they get, every pack that they get passed for the first like maybe I don't know, like 5 passes until they wheel, they're like, oh my god, I don't even know what to pick. Like, there's so many good cards in here, and
then you have those windmill slam picks.
yeah, and then you get to go into the mode of like, okay, what's gonna wheel, what's not gonna wheel, and you can start to tell after a certain point in the draft, after maybe like a pack or two, you can start being like, okay, I know that like this card that fits really well with my deck is gonna wheel, so I'm gonna pick this bit of removal. Right.
And then
it comes back and you're like, yep, I knew it.
But then you're like, it can come back one more time.
Yeah, it's like,
What
can I pick this can I pick this ramp spell, and then can this wheel, and then sometimes it'll come back around and you'll be like, I freaking knew it. And then sometimes you're like, oh god, I should have picked that.
And then sometimes you hear somebody, well, I have to counter draft just because there's nothing else for me to pick.
And then you're just like, I hope that wasn't the card that I was going to pick.
Right.
And that's part of the huge part of it that makes it super fun for me, is just like the reactions that you see people get, and like when it goes around the table and then we start getting into this little bit of like a political thing, because like I'm not really much of a person to counter draft, but it's really funny hearing people be like, oh, I gotta have this just because like I don't want this played against me, and it's just super fun.
Yeah. Those windmill slam mana vaults, though.
I know, right? It's funny because I'm pretty sure that we've actually had that not be windmill slammed. I think that happened last time, didn't it?
I windmill slammed it.
Oh, did you? I thought it got.
Chance to play it.
I thought it got passed to you.
Did it?
I thought that Heather passed it to you, and you picked it. Okay, well,
I don't think she would remember either.
Anyway, so I guess like, so talking about all of like the super fun, super like replayable, just because our cube is pretty large. It's pretty big. What's the size of this box? This box is supposed to hold 930 cards. It is full, but every card is sleeved, so take that with a grain of salt. Whatever that means. And I think that there's still definitely room for tuning, for taking out cards that are just like, that are still good, but maybe just not as good as like a lot of the other cards. So by just like process of elimination over time, you are increasing the power level of your cube by removing some of the cards that, you know, just aren't as good. Work. Yeah. And that's just, it's like the cube is an ever evolving entity, you know, like with new sets, new cards go in and then cards come out. And so like constantly you're seeing new cards every time you do it. But one of the things that like we kind of hinted at earlier was that gods are not allowed to be used as commanders. They were just added in to the cube.
With the most recent playtest.
With this most recent playtest, right. And what we saw from that playtest is that a lot of gods got drafted. And when the gods,
we've seen 4 in total. And
when the gods started coming out, the whole game changed, and it almost
everybody
became,
was counting devotion all the time.
It almost became a matter of like making sure that my opponent's gods aren't active is like paramount.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made it a little bit awkward because there was a lot of what's your devotion, what's your devotion, what's your devotion, what's your devotion, and trying to count people's devotions. And then it's like, oh, I was going to attack this person and maybe like take them out of the game. But if I don't attack this person because their gods are active, they're going to make a big play. And I'm sure that some people would argue that that's like part of like what makes it awesome. But at the end, what it turned out to be is that like I think 3 of us had gods in play. And all of a sudden, the entire match revolved around making sure each other's gods weren't active. So it's like we were doing...
Colin had Xenagos.
Yeah.
Heather had Iroas, and you had Keranos.
Yeah, I had Keranos. And I missed like...
I had Erebos, I never drew him.
Yeah, and so the whole game just became god control. Like, making sure that your opponent's gods were in check. And like maybe that's a play style like that some people are into that type of... like, I don't know, that type of gameplay. But for us, where it's like I would like to be doing other things during my turn than making sure that 2 of my opponents, you know, I don't want to be micromanaging my opponents like boards just to make sure their gods aren't online. I want to be like doing other things. Like the game shouldn't devolve into just that, and that's what happened.
So as another side note real quick, speaking of things that, you know, devolve the game, so we bought Planechase.
Oh, God. Yes. Continue.
So, and we decided, you know what? We bought it, we'll play with it. Boy, was that a mistake.
It increased the game time by a lot.
It did.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
It was fun.
I
think that we decided that moving forward that we were going to keep Planechase maybe just for regular Commander.
Yeah, not for Cube.
Because with Cube, you're thinking about a million different other things at the same time because you're learning how to play a deck that you're playing for the first time.
Yep.
And worrying about what current plane you're on, if you should be rolling the die to...
like nobody wanting to leave the plane that gives everybody double mana.
And that, it's funny, I feel like that like did crazy things for the game itself.
It did.
And some of it was fun. But at the end of the day, it was like... okay, I guess I'll roll again and again and again and again and again. And you keep rolling because you're like, dear God, get me off this plane. And again, like, just talking about it, I'm sure some people would say, oh, but that's like part of the fun of it. But it's like, yeah but not when your game lasts 4 hours.
Yeah. But like, again, that goes back into time commitment.
Oh, and another thing that we did not include in the cube, just because we know that we're playing with a lot of people that maybe haven't played a ton of Magic and don't know how to interact with these cards as well as they ought to be. We run no Planeswalkers in the cube.
Right.
I have a whole swath of Planeswalkers that if I wanted to, I could just, boom, like bomb drop into the cube. Like, I have a ton of Planeswalkers that are just like ready to go, not being used for anything that I could just put in there. But the problem with that is, what I feel like what would end up happening, and it's happened before in normal
with the gods.
In normal Commander games, it's kind of happened this way too, where people like newer players or people that just don't play as much ignore Planeswalkers, and then I could just ultimate, and all of a sudden the game might just be over because of that. And that's something that we wanted to avoid at all costs as well. So we do not run Planeswalkers in our cube.
That, and like most new players probably don't understand the intricacies of how to interact with a Planeswalker, specifically like burn.
Yeah.
Do new players know that they can't directly target a Planeswalker with burn? No.
Yeah.
You have to target the player and then redirect that to the walker. That's not an obvious rule.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's like shortcuts that we could like talk about if we decided to ever integrate Planeswalkers into our cube. But for right now, I think that we're having a great time and not missing them.
Yeah.
So there's that. As far as, I guess it's worth saying that the replay value of this cube over its short lifespan, because we've only played it 3 times, the replay value is so high it's not even funny.
Yeah.
I have made it a point.
Nobody's played the same deck yet.
Yeah, I have made it a point to play a different commander every time. And what I feel like that does for me as a player is it just gets me used to playing different things. Because there's a certain type of deck that I like to play. And I was trying to play, like the last time I was trying to play Control, and it was
Yeah.
interesting just knowing that, okay, well, this is a really, really, really good aggro card, but it might not just be for this deck, you know?
The deck I played, I've never built a red deck or red black deck before.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked Vial Smasher when I had Panharmonicon,
Right.
and whew,
Yeah, Panharmonicon's just good anyway.
by itself,
Yeah.
and then adding his ability to that, oh,
Yeah.
we did see that happen a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that thinking about just drafting the huge red and black creatures, which
Mm-hmm.
normally would not be the greatest idea.
Yeah, sure.
But in
But with
this case,
Vial Smasher, it works.
Exactly. And he's so cheap and easy to get out. I mean, why not?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, I guess in a few weeks, and there's a few weeks in May that I'm actually going to be up there, but
Okay.
I'm going to have kind of stuff to do. But there's one weekend, I think it's the weekend of like the 13th or something that I'm going to be up there, and Tim has that weekend off. So after the show, we'll talk. We'll talk
The
intricacies.
13th, you said?
I think so. Yeah, we'll talk about that
I
after
might
the
be
show.
on days by then.
Well, okay. So yeah, we'll talk about
Yeah.
that after the show. But there will be another opportunity to cube at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But like all in all, it's been a huge success. You know,
Yep.
like it's
Had
been
a ton of fun.
It's been a huge, like almost like breath of fresh air from just playing like card like. There's something about going into the unknown of a cube, and then by extension, the deck that you make from the cube. That's just you're drawing cards that you're like, okay, I remember I picked this for a reason. So how do I maximize like the value of this card with
Like for
what's
me-
currently happening?
For me specifically, like for a while, I cared about Magic, but I didn't care. Like I just
Yeah,
didn't want to play.
got a little bit burnt out.
But I would sit down and draft no problem
Oh yeah,
because it's fun.
yep, it's awesome.
So
Uh, I think that and I guess real quick, before we just kind of close out here, we were talking with one of the people at Legendary, and they were telling us a little bit about how their playgroup ran their Commander Cube for a while, and it was really interesting.
mm-hmm.
Like they were saying that if you drafted, if you happened to draft Maze's End as one of your cards, then
Yeah.
you would automatically add one of each gate to your pool of cards.
Huh.
Yeah, and then if you were to draft like Relentless Rats or that one like Shadowborn Apostle or whatever, you would
Yeah.
automatically add 50 of either of those cards to your card pool. So
Okay.
well, that's a really interesting way to do it. Like, so it's like, and I'm not sure if our cube is ready for that type of thing. But just think of it this way, Brandon. Think of it this way. If, let's say, maybe moving forward, we try something out where it's like we put like one or two lords of a bunch of different types, and if you draft that lord, you add like a tribal package of that creature type
Ooh.
to your pool. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
I think that might be something that we can talk about going forward.
It could. I mean, that could necessarily make tribal work without being a detriment to the cube itself.
Right, because like it's not like you can maybe add like some some tribal legendaries to the commander pack portion of it, but you don't necessarily have to be playing one of those in order to do it. Like if you're playing, like if you want to play red black goblins and you drafted like Rakdos the Defiler or whatever he was, or Bile Smasher or whatever, and you pick up like a Goblin King, all of a sudden you add like a package of like 20 like good Goblin cards to your boom right into your pool. And I think that might be something. It's like nothing, no, like you wouldn't get any other type of cards, just cards specifically meant for that archetype.
For that tribe.
So, and it's like, and that's another cool thing where like it's an ever evolving format for us, just because we have the way that we play it, but then we added planechase to it, and and then just thinking, this was an idea that I had just now, to possibly try to integrate something like that into the cube. So there's always room for not necessarily improvement, but just change, like to shake it up a little bit. And like if you have any ways that your playgroup plays Commander Cube, smash that down into the comment section below.
Mm-hmm.
And and like feel free to take like the way that we do it and use it for yourself. Like we've been having a ton of fun playing it that way, so why shouldn't you? So
take it and run with it.
Yeah. But I think that just about wraps it up here for this episode of Commanding Magic. You have anything else to add to the very end here?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything, didn't we?
Yeah. If we forgot anything, feel free to let us know and give us a like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think of this Commander Cube draft/Commander variant that we have kind of what's the word for it? Like we've taken ideas and turned it into something that's our own, and it's been a great time. So let us know what you think. Find us on social media, things like that. And I think for now, that's going to do it for this episode of Commanding Magic, and it's going to be Travis and Brandon returning to the command zone. Gee dang it. Let me go get some more coffee before we start this.
Okay.